You stay behind Thomas, eh? You stay behind us. Clear, Thomas? Right. All right. So we're gonna start zone 4.
In all of our sets, use what we could from the communities, including District 9.
I don't think there's been one clean set apart from Vicus's house in this whole movie. Everything is down and dirty. The crew is sick to death of it.
Oh, fuck. Okay, that's really getting unacceptable.
There's moments when you arrive at the shack on a given evening to do the last shot of the day, and you realize that some of the dressing that has been outside, however, has been used as firewood by security or been removed by some other dwellers in Soweto.
First scene was easy enough. That was kind of just establishing the story, and a happy scene with my husband bringing me breakfast in bed, and from there it was downhill. It was just craziness.
I'm being paid to be a boy of 12. As a kid growing up and wanting to shoot aliens and playing with my mates and my friends, you created all of this in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I remember the first day very clearly. And I wondered what the hell I was doing, because we were using a handheld Sony EX1. We didn't have a proper video system set up, so I was watching it on the viewfinder on the EX1, which is mental. So, you know, I was fairly stressed out.
It's beeping.
The film predominantly is a cinematic film. We had to sort of develop this dialogue as we were going through production to actually figure out what the best way is to sort of delineate between what you're seeing at different given moments in the film.
There's the real handheld documentary feel, and I was operating a camera within the scene that the Vicus character was playing off of.
You know, you see the state of the thing. This was a brand new shack. 6 months ago, this was new.
The most simple way to think of it is, do the actors know that the camera is there within the world that they are bringing to life? Because if they do, then it's this sort of found footage kind of element inside the film, whether that's a documentary filmmaker or a security camera. It's a real life camera that exists inside the story.
They're spending so much money to keep them here when they could be spending it on other things, but at least they're keeping them separate from us.
Then there's the cinematic stuff, which is the more traditional approach to filmmaking.
Honestly, we sort of refined that as we went along, and then we kind of met in the middle, so that, you know, we would be handheld, or we would have like a loose feel to the frame in the cinematic portion, and then that sort of just felt like it was the same film as the rest of the documentary part.
I was fairly stressed out in the beginning, hopping between those two and sort of seeing what would happen. The language of the film is this kind of existing footage, this documentary footage, and you start throwing in little cinematic pieces and then going back to documentary, and then before you know it, you're just watching cinematic stuff. So you're very much within the realm of normal film.
It won't be your traditional sit-down movie that you're used to watching. I think some people will be excited by it. Some people might be a little jarred by it at first.
Could I have some of your salary from today? Because, I mean, you are the DOP, but you are not DOPing, eh?
I'm not
I am
operating.
actually shooting.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we'll do a fee split.
So we used handheld video camera, so Sony EX1. We ran around with it, acted as the documentary camera. The sound design and everything within that world is meant to be treated as though this really is a handheld video camera. And when we cross over into the cinematic stuff, we were using the Red platform to shoot it in a more traditional cinematic way.
I absolutely loved the scenes where there was a camera that I could play to as Vicus. The very first test we did was done on that basis, so it was Vicus being on camera for the first time. And so you've got this extra layer of, well, how is he on camera versus off camera? And it creates a very real feeling when you can kind of, you know, if every now and then you can look into the camera and look back at you and look into the camera. You connect with him.
No, it's fine, it's fine.
He's a maniac. He's fantastic. He's really embraced his character. I mean, there've been times where he doesn't even really come out of character just to sort of, you know, keep him in there. We'll have break for lunch and he's still Vickers with the very Afrikaans accent.
At first, you know, Insia, I thought that it was going to be difficult to do this. But in fact, there's quite a lot of control. They're building in a little bit more control for me, you know. So if you have a look at this, okay, basically it almost worked like a fork, you know. So if you get the right angle, okay, that one didn't work so well, but okay, that didn't work so well either. But if you take, okay, that's also not.
He was a producer for years, and he pushes and pushes and pushes, and when everybody else falls over, he'll just keep going. He's much more energetic than any, you know, Energizer Bunny in the world.
Yes.
VX 128.1 Yankee, take 1, Bravo marker.
Charlie marker.
Mark. And action.
He doesn't stop speaking. He doesn't stop being on action and stuff. So, and he's been here every single day. He's been here more days than any one of the actors.
The way you engage him, you know, using the power of assertion.
It was very physically demanding. It was way more demanding than I had imagined it would be. Not having acted in a film like this before, I didn't really have a handle on how much actors go through, particularly if it's a lead part like this with the kind of emotions that Vickers experiences. He literally goes through virtually every major possible human emotion.
No, acting is not at all what I thought, you know. It damages you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's damaging. It's a damaging job.
That close team of technical people, they make the performance what it is on screen. You can come with as many tools as you want to technically, and you will say, you didn't play that. You weren't there. Just give me quivers.
The action I wanted to be not over the top. The whole film is meant to be not Hollywood. It's got this insanely Hollywood fantasy elements of these aliens living in South Africa. The approach that I wanted to take was that you've got this really bizarre element in the movie, and in order for it to be as real as possible, you should go about things without putting the effects on a pedestal.
That's a first day fight. That's a big fight. Everyone ready? Okay, here we go.
We had people right on top of explosions.
3, 2, 1, action!
With certain of our weapons that are created in 3D, we had to come up with the end result for those weapons, their impacts on the ground, what they did to stunt people. Okay, what we have here is a dropship which crashes into the township. And the way we're achieving this effect, which is a dust explosion basically, we're using 5 air receivers, which each 500 liters of air. We pump them up to 10 bar, and then we have these actuator valves on them, which is basically a knife which opens up on electronic cue. And then on the end of each one of them we have a mortar, which is filled with dust and cork and various soft debris, which will then fire across this road over here and hopefully hit the house.
4, 3, 2, 1, go!
But what we're doing, we're staggering this, so we'll have the ship has a pointy nose, and then the motors sit on the outside of that. So what we're doing is firing the center first, so you'll get a point of dust and debris firing out through, and moments later we'll fire off the other air cannons. We'll create the shape of the aircraft crashing.
For the most part, when we were filming, my mind was never in the realm of visual effects. There was a constantly recurring question of, well, could we shoot it clean, right? Because the amount of work to paint Jason out for every single, or any gray suit guy representing an alien with a moving camera is a lot of work. And the background has to be, digitally re-stitched in.
Hey man, do agents open the door, please? Hello? We would like you to please sign us. Okay, all right, that's unacceptable. That is totally unacceptable. Get out! Get out!
I play about 10 characters or something. I think I play a community of intergalactic beings, which sounds quite psychedelic. Which is a very interesting process, and obviously you do all of this character and then it just gets taken straight out again because everything that you do basically gets painted out and the visuals get removed.
Thanks very much. Yeah, no, yeah.
Neil wants to create a feeling of authenticity with this movie. So from the word go, Phil always said, let's use elements of today's life in South Africa and incorporate those into the sets.
Well, we're in Soweto in Johannesburg, and of course it was discussed for numerous reasons: safety, economy, everything. Why not just shoot it in a green screen in New Zealand, which is where we were writing the film?
Where we are right now is we're in South Joburg. Geographically, this is part of Soweto, but it's a suburb or a neighborhood of Soweto called Chiawelo. And there's a lot of strange connections to the film that we never obviously set out to do, but one of them is all of these shacks around here. We only have access to this area, and we could only build our additional shacks here because all of these residents were moved into RDP housing somewhere else in Joburg, which is exactly what happens to the aliens in the film. So that's just a complete bizarre set of events.
It was the first landfill in that area in Soweto. People have been living on it and surviving off that landfill for the past 22 odd years.
Come towards us there. He's walking towards us.
We used the entire place and terrain as our inspiration to build D9. Every single thing that we have used in the squatter camp comes from the squatter camp. And with the help of the local people, it's just building shacks.
It's definitely something that I think would be incredibly difficult to replicate, just because of the amount of, there is so much visual detail here. Every single pixel is, dirt or barbed wire or weeds, or it's incredibly visually rich.
Being out in Soweto was not a new experience for me, whereas looking at other people's experiences who don't normally operate in that environment, it gave it a raw feeling.
It's been environmentally and physically extremely trying.
A lot of the crew have felt like they're on some sort of episode of Survivor, I think a lot of people feel like someone's going to jump out any second and go, okay, it's not really a movie, we just wanted to see if you could make it, because it's grueling, I've gone around to sort of the hardcore crew guys, and I just out of interest, I say to them, so what's the worst place you've ever worked, man? And then this is kind of, they're desperately searching. Well, the desert was bad, sandstorms. And then I said, well, was it worse? Was it harder on you? They're like, no, this is the hardest.
I think the biggest challenge on this job, and also the most enjoyable challenge, has been the range of sets, from spaceships through to squatter camps, through to medical laboratories and military installations. It's a whole range of stuff.
Gerotex is quite unique since it is a ex-nuclear facility storage.
We have somehow managed to be able to build our set around, and in the process of building our set around it, we have incorporated this area here, which is the 1980s apartheid nuclear weapons program storage facility. So our film alien weapons props are being stored inside the real nuclear weapons safes that were used in the 80s that housed God knows what in these foot-thick steel doors, which weigh about 70 kilograms each. And you can see, this one is bare, but this is very interesting. Those are not ours. So, Yeah, it's a little disturbing, but there they are. They're right there.
Watching Neil direct this from the very beginning has been amazing. It really has. He knows what he wants, and he just has instinct.
Neil's whole approach to this whole movie has just been unbelievable because he's allowed us to explore the characters and given us such freedom, but at the same time, he's guided us along the whole way, if that makes any sense.
Experience-wise, this has been a dream come true.
I felt totally unprepared. I was completely unprepared. It was a whirlwind of production.
If we do a picture wrap on Shalto, that means we've got nothing more to shoot. So that was indeed Shalto. Thank you very much, sir.